This conversation with Claire Knight felt really personal to me because Claire is not only an entrepreneur, mindfulness teacher and a coach, but also someone I share a very deep understanding of life and human experience with. When we first met in person in London, I was coming out of a period of grief, burnout and depression after losing my husband, Martin. And I remember feeling truly connected to other human beings again for the first time in a long time. It honestly felt like coming back to life. So in this episode, we explore what real human connection means, why so many of us feel we have to hide parts of ourselves just to cope, and what happens when we finally feel safe enough to stop performing and reconnect with who we really are underneath all the noise. Claire, I remember when we first met in London. It was summer 2025, I think. And no, actually, I think it might have been summer 24. And you're just...
I don't know which it was. I feel like I've known you forever.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do.
Yeah, same. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. We knew each other online, didn't we? Because we were in the same coaching community. But then when we met actually in person in London, I just felt it was such a special time for me. And I wanted to talk about that as something that was really personal to me, because I had been in a really difficult period of my life. I'd been grieving for my husband. I'd been in a very dark place. And it taken me a while to sort of gradually move out of that, and just wanted to be at home all the time and not really, mix with people and stuff. But then when I came to London and met you and the other people in the room, it was incredible. I felt like I was almost coming alive again. And so I kind of wanted to start with that, because to me that is, I've just remember that we had a connection straight away. And it was so lovely to see you, like, not online, because a lot of stuff's online, isn't it? So
I know, but it's funny, isn't it? Because I think actually the reason why it felt so amazing to meet in person was because of the connections that we had made online. So yeah. I think even being here today and talking, and other people will be listening, your audience and mine, actually we have a sense of people and the energy that they bring. And I think actually, coming here today was my choice, because I just feel like we have a connection, and it starts somewhere. And it started online, and in those rooms and online. It didn't get in the way of us actually building a connection. And here we are today, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 years on, we're not even sure. But, and we're still at the beginning of allowing our relationship to unfold and see where we can support each other to be, getting the best out of life and growing as human beings.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to talk about connection in general, because I feel like, that's kind of why I started it off like that, because I felt this connection with you. I felt connected with everybody, in that special time at summer camp, it was called. And so what do you think real connection is?
I've got such a... I'm having a heartburst moment, actually.
Yay, I like those. Tell me about that.
I think it's such a good question. I think for me, and I suspect this is not just me, it's a heart-based feeling. Like, I experience a lot of stuff in my body, and I've been practicing probably all my life, but certainly much more consciously in the last few years, really listening to what my body's telling me. So as you asked that question, this is what I experienced. A rush of energy came to my heart and sort of burst open. And I thought I might cry for a moment, actually, because for me, connection is having an open heart, is allowing myself the energy of me, the spirit inside, if you like, to be free to reach out and sort of touch and get the feel of another person, but also to allow that openness to allow the spirit of you in this instance to connect and touch me. So in the middle of us, we have a space which is our connection. It's like a tangible, living, breathing thing that's unique to you and me in this moment. But, you know, connection with any other human being. So like my kids, for example, you know, I have a unique connection with each of the three of them. And when the three of them are in front of me in my eye line, collectively we have a connection that's also got its own flavour. So I suppose I feel like connection is the way in which we allow the flavour of us to meet the flavour of somebody else. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Yeah, because we've all got our unique kind of vibration and energy and chemistry, I suppose, happening. And it's then meeting someone else's. And what happens in that, like, I love what you said about in the in-between space, because it kind of is, isn't it? When we're thinking about energy, and I mean, I know we talk about how everything's energy, we are energy, the universe is energy. So it's that kind of, from what I'm hearing, it's almost like when we let go of any kind of pretending or masking, and that's when connection might have a barrier there. And I just wondered, have you seen anything for yourself around that on your own kind of journey around that?
Yeah, loads. So, sometimes I think I'm sort of a bit like a snail, where, you know, when a snail or sort of is crawling along really slowly and it reaches its antenna out and touches something and then sort of retracts. Yeah. And I think I can think of loads of times where I've not been either ready, or either the way I've been feeling or something about the context, you know, and connection isn't always possible, and it doesn't always happen, even when we want it to. And also, when I think back to even being a child, I can think of lots of times where that connection came really easily. So I think as I'm getting older, maybe it's the ups and downs of life, my life, and the things that have been ways in which I've consciously been learning and experiencing things as I've gone along. And sometimes through difficult things that have happened in my life, my capacity for connection has grown enormously. And I found now that actually it's very rare that I feel withheld, or that I don't get a sense of who this person is that's in front of me. So I think connection for me is really an important part of my ways of being. It's a conscious choice every day to bring loving presence to the way that I am in order to create connection with whoever. So maybe that's somebody I'm coaching, but maybe it's my next door neighbour who's had a knee operation, or maybe it's a person in the shop. And sometimes, because I just find it waste of time and energy to sit in irritation, sometimes even if I'm not in conscious connection with a person, maybe I'm watching the news even, I try to think about, if I notice irritation or some other physical, emotional feeling that isn't helpful, I try to draw my own attention to that and expand my sense of connection with other human beings, whoever they might be, to look towards the innocence in them, or to remember that whatever people do makes sense to them at their level of understanding or context or history. So
yeah, that's so powerful, isn't it? Because I think I mean, I spent most of my life not doing that. And I've only recently, I'd say the last few years, trying to do that a little bit more, but it's so easy to forget, isn't it? And I think I thought that the other day. I felt really irritated by something or someone. I can't even remember what it was. And it's like you said, I kind of like, normally I'd project that out somehow. And it's more about going in, isn't it? And feeling like, oh, what is this feeling like
just want
in my body? And,
exactly. Yeah. And I have to say, like, I am selfishly motivated. Like it might sound, oh, you know, peace and love and all of that. Actually, I mean, I always remember hearing the Dalai Lama talk about forgiveness being a gift to yourself, not to the person that you're forgiving. And I have to say that I, you know, as I'm talking about it now, thinking, oh, I must sound like some, you know, I don't know, I'm aspiring for some
Mother
guru.
Teresa.
Yeah, no, not that. It's more the fact that I feel like, how do I want to live? Like, I want to live in a nice feeling. I literally just want to enjoy my life. It's my responsibility, and only I have to go through whatever is happening for me internally. Nobody else is suffering on my behalf, if you like. So if I don't want to do that suffering, how can I notice it, accept what's here in this moment, and actually open my perspective to make that suffering, any sort of irritation or whatever, diminish even by 1%. That's in the right direction. That's good enough.
And it's so powerful, isn't it? Because I've struggled most of my life with this, being ADHD. I have a lot of big, intense emotions and a lot of, you know, like kind of go 0 to 100 with a lot of things. Like I can be sitting in a car behind somebody a little bit slow and tend to be quite sort of fast-natured sometimes when you have ADHD. And yes. And I can feel myself going, and then I have been trying to like feel that, just feel it. And actually, it's not really suffering when we actually go into it. It's like the suffering is in the mind more, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, when we really feel, we can feel anything. And it's like, it's just interesting in a way, like, oh, why am I so irritated by someone going a little bit slow in a car? And like you said, maybe they've got their own story why they're going. So there could be, I don't know. Maybe they're being careful, unlike me. That's not a good thing to say on a podcast, is it? I am a great driver, honestly. So
not judging.
Yeah. But I suppose what I'm talking about is there's the mind, isn't there, that comes in. And again, I'm someone with ADHD. My mind could be very busy, and it can be, you know, like a lot of judgments and things like that. You know, I'm trying to get better at that. But yeah, and then the feeling in our body is the feeling in our body. So have you got anything? What would you say about that, and what have you seen?
There's so much in what you've said there, because I think it's so. I know I've fallen into the trap of not liking what I'm feeling. And I suppose it might sound like I'm trying, you know, even what I've just been talking about might sound as if I'm suggesting doing some strategies to control my feelings. And I don't actually see that as possible. I can't actually help the thousands of thoughts that my thought factory of a brain is like churning out all day, and as a consequence of those things that come up, I'm feeling stuff as well, and I know that I can't control those things, but I can notice. And I think I've realized I've recently trained as a mindfulness teacher, and it's been an interesting process, because what I've learned is that there are attitudes of mindfulness that I really love. And I love the attitudes of mindfulness as a way of helping me understand what's possible and how to approach my life. And I love that more than I love meditating, to be honest, because like you, I have a very fast racing mind a lot of the time, and I can be very quick to have ideas and, you know, undiagnosed ADHD. I don't know whether I am or not, or who knows? I don't know. However, I recognise lots of the things that you're describing. But the attitudes of mindfulness they're almost like, while I'm racing along the road, signposts to think, just as a reminder as I'm zooming by, oh, self-compassion. I could be more compassionate to myself and others. Oh, non-judgment. I could actually choose to not judge that person or myself, actually. And what does that how do those things benefit me? I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but I suppose it's just the way of being that allows me that moment of interruption, that gives me the chance to acknowledge that my mind and my emotions are flowing all of the time. I can't help. I'm as innocent as a toddler in terms of what actually comes into my head and what actually is happening emotionally. But I am also able to choose what I then do with that feeling or with that thought. And got a long track history of saying things out loud I wish I hadn't. That's an ongoing practice of not blurting my opinions in places where they're either not relevant, welcome, accurate, helpful, or wise. So I think that's just this is why I like the practice of mindfulness, is because in small ways I can keep practicing, and it will be a lifelong area of growth, I think, for me, to actually practice interrupting what is, noticing what is, and accepting what is, in order to make wise choices, conscious choices, and sometimes that pause is long enough for me to notice and accept that I already had blurted the thing or done the thing, or maybe it's the pause I need to say, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, I can own it. And I hope that I'm getting better at owning and being in what, going back to connection really is being able to come back to the connection and value that connection in the middle, rather than thinking, and start defending what I did out of fear of, what that means. And all that defensiveness does is actually crumble away the connection that was there before, rather than repair and rebuild it. So I think it's about honouring this, honouring the space in between, and practicing ways of still being able to show up genuinely, and even when I've got an emotional thing going on inside.
Yeah, I really love that, Claire, because I've been seeing that a lot myself recently. I never did before. That I can say something that I might regret saying, and I can own it, like you said. But I think before, when I was very caught up in my identity, and again, I am still sometimes, not like, but I'm just seeing more and more that it's only the identity that, if we've got an identity that we are trying to protect and defend, that's when we get defensive and we don't own it, and it makes it all worse, and we end up, it just escalates, doesn't it? Whereas I'm really seeing now, because this has happened to me quite recently, actually quite a few times, where I'm just being just me in the moment, and we can't, like you said, it's not about controlling anything, because we're just being ourselves. And being that self might say things that might hurt somebody without wanting to.
Yeah.
But I think it's, if we are in the moment, we are not clinging on to this identity, then we kind of know, we can see. And that's what I think I've noticed. I see almost much more quickly, and it's okay. And it's not that I'm judging myself. I just, there was a thing I said that I kind of wish I hadn't. And I can apologise for it. In fact, it's not even about wishing I hadn't. It's more because it is what it is. It's like it couldn't have happened any other way, but it happened. So then I can, yeah. So I don't know what you think about that. Like, it's about us protecting the identity, and once we've kind of see through that identity, and we know that's just well, I don't know. That's a whole nother thread we could go down, but.
Well, I think it's really interesting when you talk about identity, because I'm pretty sure that the identities that I've either created for myself or have aspired to have actually really worked against me in lots of ways. And probably they've been helpful at some points. But I can remember really vividly some of the times where the identity that I've had has been stripped away from me, and it's left me very unstuck. And this is why I love coaching so much, is because you can end up in, you help as a coach, I find I'm sat with people, allowing them to explore what that identity is. It's just not visible. It certainly hasn't been visible to me. So, for example, having ideas of who I should be or wanted to be. For example, at school, like, I did quite well academically most of the time, but not all of the time. So then when I didn't do well, what did that mean? Because I'd created an identity of me as somebody who was going to do well.
Wow.
And then,
yeah,
and then being chaotic or disorganized, not doing my revision, or, spending, well, my relationship with time is very difficult. And, not knowing how long things would take me, or working till, late into the night. I had to dig deep to even do the bits that I did do well. But because I created a whole identity around that, when there was a crack in it, or my results didn't come through, or didn't, it had me in a tailspin of what did that mean? What meaning did I put to that? So, didn't do so well in my A levels. So that's, what did that mean? And it created a whole, and looking back, I see now that moments like that, where things didn't go to plan, I've got so many of them now that actually I see how useful they've been. So even now I really feel passionate about talking about how we can hold two things: our emotional state, our disappointment or frustration, particularly with ourselves, and yet not make meaning of it, not have it be associated or tied to my identity.
Yeah.
I mean, I've really enjoyed the jobs I've had through my career, but when I first had like my oldest daughter, suddenly I felt very lost without the identity of my job title amongst all these other new mums. And, it was a really shocking and destabilising thing to realise how much I'd anchored my sense of self into what I actually do. And I suppose the same, like when my marriage came to an end, I had an identity as a wife, and then I suddenly didn't. And actually one of my biggest insights came when I had a realization that despite that happening, that I was okay, that who I really am sat beneath that label or that construct.
Yeah.
And so in terms of how I see identity now. I see identity as the spirit inside of this vehicle that is my body. So I am not my body, you know, I am not my marital status, I am not my job title, I am not even the sum total of all the things I've done in my life, achievements or disappointing things that I haven't done well, my failings. I'm not who any of those things. I exist in this moment. Praise be, you know, I am alive, and that is all that matters. So who can I be today? How am I showing up? What connections can I create with people by opening my heart and welcoming them to open theirs? And it pretty much boils down to that.
Wow. I don't know where I've got so many things I want to
say.
Go. Like
and I still have to go to Aldi and, you know, clean the house and do boring things. But, you know, and I don't always do those things very well. You know, adulting, it's boring sometimes, really. So, but I don't know. I feel like it's a privilege to be alive, really. And I just want to make the most of it and help others do the same.
Wow. I mean, I was going to go all these tangents, but just that last thing that you just said has just really, it made me feel something there, like a privilege to be alive. So I feel like that's what I want to, that's what's coming up for me now is what you, can you say more about that? And how
I'm curious to know what it touched in you. What did it touch in you?
Well, I absolutely see that, but I didn't for my whole life. Up to about the age of 50, I was struggled, and it was like survival. It felt like survival. And if someone had said to me it's a privilege to be alive, I would have thought, yeah, it sounds like words, but I didn't feel it. I didn't feel that. And I do now. And I think it's when we strip away, like you were just saying about all these identities, I had really resonated with what you said about this identity of like trying to be this thing that you had to protect almost. And then if something slipped, a crack in it, then it would be like, you know, really, really troublesome, like really stressful. And now I realise that, you know, like you say, I'm none of those identities anyway. We can do things, can't we? We can do things. We can do a job, or we can play a role, but it's just playing. That's what it is. It's just playing it's not who we are. It's not what we are. And so back to your question, how do I see it? We've been on similar paths, I think, by the sound of it, especially where the type of coaching that we do now is very, it is about knowing that we are energy, we are the universe, we are that. I mean, that sounds a bit, some of my listeners might be thinking, what the hell's Juliet talking about? But it's hard to put into words, isn't it, really, what we mean? But we, how would you put it into words, Claire? I'm gonna put that one over to you. If we were talking about, you know, like maybe sort of around how we see things in terms of what we are and
Wow, this has gone profound, really.
It has a bit, yeah.
And I love that. And I think that's part of how, you know, some of the conversations we've had over the last couple of years. So how do I see that? I'll just tell a tiny little detour of a story, I think, just to capture
stories.
it.
We love stories.
So there's such a power in, for me, I'll just talk from what I've seen for myself. Recognizing what matters to me, and also looking for the good feeling in life, and understanding what has me in a good feeling, and how do I live my best life, and what's the point of it all. And I think it's so easy when we get bogged down, and I definitely have done this. I've done this in the workplace, I've done this at home, and I've got a long track history of overthinking, worrying, and taking things very seriously. And they're not the periods of my life which I remember with much joy and appreciation for being alive. And then there are other times which stand out as really special moments. And I think, given that I have so many thoughts all of the time, which of those thoughts actually nourish me and are helpful, and which ones, if I'm being honest, don't? So I can't help what comes in. I can be more aware and more conscious. You know, my understanding of what it means to what consciousness is, and how to be conscious of what's going on around me, allows me that ability to appreciate and lean in to ways of being, to things that I enjoy doing, to the people that matter to me, to the tasks that I choose or prioritize, to recovering and bouncing back if and when I slide into the heavy sort of magnetic field of, you know, thinking that has a lower feeling that brings me into self-criticism and or criticism of others, judgments. So I think it's, you know, the sorts of conversations we've had have been around, you know, the power of thought to create all sorts of things. Some things are good and some things are unhelpful. The power of consciousness to be able to actually be aware of what's going on and understand that thoughts just are going to keep coming, but there will be fresh thoughts behind them and fresh thoughts behind them. And ultimately, to be able to appreciate and choose, make conscious choices to step away from things that are unhelpful, accept and care for myself and care about myself, and not feel guilty about that, and see that as my responsibility, not as a decadent luxury. And I know now that when I take care of myself, I'm less likely to get exhausted. I'm less likely to become dysfunctional in any given context. I'm more likely to stay connected, play a useful part in society, be a force for good in whatever place I choose. So whether that's the work I've done in community development, whether it's volunteering in a school, whether it's doing leadership development work, or whether it's coaching somebody, these are the things that I've managed to amplify in my life, because I feel that they're much more aligned to who I am, what matters to me, and the way I see the world seems to be quite helpful for people. So more of that, I think, is lies in my future.
I love it. I think what I'm hearing is living your life on purpose, with purpose, and consciously, and choosing how you want to live your life. And I think that a lot of people don't do that. And I definitely didn't do that. And I think when you said to me, what does it mean? Why did that hit me? When you said a privilege to be alive, that is how I feel now, because I am living that conscious life. And that's kind of the coaching that we do, isn't it? To help other people to see that. Because I know for sure, you know, it's not easy. I would say it's it's very simple in one level, but it's not necessarily easy to, you know, because it's a journey, isn't it? And knowing, but I think, yeah, I would say now I see the world differently, almost like the world's always been the same, but I now see it in like pure technicolor.
Yeah.
And like, and just, yeah, do feel that it is an absolute privilege to be alive. And we don't, you know, sometimes we're so lost in our thoughts, like you were saying, and that's exactly what I was. And then now I know that is not my reality. That's not the true reality. It's like living in the Matrix, isn't it? In fact, I think that film, I didn't realise that film is a kind of metaphor for like how we actually are. I don't know if you know about that film. But,
yeah, and I love it. And I think, you know, when I look back, I think, oh, I've been putting pennies in the slot of this understanding of how life works for my whole life. I remember my first insight being when I was 11, like a really powerful moment of realization. And I was in my first school play at 11, and it was The Hobbit, and I was very nervous, and so nervous I'd been in the toilet like all afternoon. Too much information, sorry. And but I remember being backstage and feeling very aware that I was responsible for going out on the stage and saying my bit. Like no one else was coming to rescue me. I had to do that. Like I'd somehow got myself in a situation where that was what was coming up. And the insight that I had was, it's me, it's only me. What I'm experiencing is going on inside of me, and in 15 minutes it's done. Do you know, like,
wow.
and a moment of surrender to the experience of that absolute fear and like a feeling of paralysis I had before I went out to say it was probably like 2 lines or something. I was only 11. And actually I realize now, like, that insight has served me so many times before interviews, before other performances that I went on to do. Like I came to really love doing drama and stuff at school and uni, actually. But yeah.
What was the actual insight, would you say? What did you realise that when you were 11, just about to go and play the character in The Hobbit? I love it.
I think I realised that actually behind that everything is flowing. An insight that I was experiencing fear, but I wouldn't experience, you know, the feeling of the fear was very, very temporary. It was part of something that, you know, that is going to flow through me. It's here now. Like I noticed it in the moment. I experienced it in the moment. I knew, I was conscious that I was experiencing it in the moment. And even while I was experiencing it, I knew there was all sorts of celebrations planned for when I got home, you know, and that actually I would be pleased with myself. Yeah. It was a case of doing something hard, deliberately, and knowing that actually the rewards come later. So I think it's a really juicy moment, and not one that I really took on board, I suppose, the significance in that moment. But it's so interesting when I look back. I think I can think of lots of different times where the feeling of having an insight that changes things, sometimes in a small way in the moment just to get me through, but actually the experience of the insight, the fact that insights are available, the fact that I can see things differently. I know that I can see things differently. And I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like called as a coach, because I know that, and I can sit with anybody. Well, I mean, whether I'm coaching them or it's an, you know, a more sociable interaction. I know that new insights are possible and that things can be okay. And I think even in the darkest times of my life, the biggest challenge is, another insight I've had is knowing a bit like it's going back to that identity conversation. Beneath who I think I am, I'm whole. So if I know that for me, and I know myself to be a very ordinary person, it's not just true for me, it's true for everybody. Beneath who I think I am, I'm whole. I'm worthy. I'm a rounded human being who can think a new thought and do things differently if that's what's required. And it's so powerful to know that for myself, but it's also, I think, is really, I've had the privilege of receiving coaching conversations where that's been evident. It's been made evident to me afresh over and over again. I go down my own blind alley like all of the time, and down that blind alley I realise, I created the blind alley in the first place. I can reverse out of this and move along in a different direction if I so choose. So I think the experience of that is, I'm grateful to all the people who've seen that before me, who've made that really clear and obvious in the way they live, and I'm determined to do that same now as much as I can for others.
Yeah, spread that message and awareness. And it was when you were saying about being whole and underneath this identity and all these layers of whatever it is, I was just thinking about like when we're a child, that is what we're talking about, isn't it? Like, and you said earlier about feeling like a toddler. And I think then that makes it, when we think about that, because sometimes it can sound a bit conceptual, I think, to people. Like some of my audience might be thinking, what are they talking about? What do you mean? I don't feel whole. I don't, I feel I know for me, I felt broken most of my life. Like there was something wrong with me. And I know that I have, like clients and listeners that will probably be thinking that. And they don't necessarily relate to when we say we're whole. They might be thinking, well, I don't feel like that. And I know that is exactly how I felt. So what would you say to those people if they are thinking that?
Well, I suppose say, I get it. I completely understand. Like there are times where I feel completely stuck in the constraints of how I seem to operate in ways that I don't find helpful for myself. And yet, when I remember that I have lots of thoughts and many of them are not true. Like when you're walking down the road and you see somebody you think you know, and in the moment that you think you know who it is, you wave, you put yourself out there, you might even shout, and it's not them. But like, I didn't half think I knew them. I actually thought it was somebody I knew, and then I was wrong. And I think it's that knowing we're human is part of seeing that sometimes we have thoughts about ourselves that feel really, really real. Thoughts are real. And thoughts do create a reality in themselves.
Yeah.
But seeing that not every thought is helpful or true, that's the direction to look with curiosity. And that's all that's needed, I think. For me, that's all I need to do ever is be curious. Is it true? Is it true? And is it helpful that I'm thinking these things? Not to wipe the thought away or to white knuckle my way out of a belief that I'm holding, more to soften it to the possibility of something else being more true.
So really, it sounds like what you're saying is if people feel that they're broken and they don't feel that truth of what we're saying, because we're saying, well, we're whole. It's thoughts that they're, and if they know that is thought, and that can be quite a difficult concept for people that maybe have not really realized that before. That and that was a big, I still remember my first time kind of thinking that, and it's been a process, like many layers of like realization, like gets deeper and deeper, because I think I just heard once, I was listening to some kind of mindfulness app, and it said something like, you're not stressed, you just think you are, or something. And I'm thinking, oh, it wasn't, I can't remember quite what it was, but it was something like that.
I'm a big fan of entertaining the possibility, like, of whatever. Like, just can I entertain the possibility? And if I ask myself, can I entertain the possibility that I'm stronger than I think?
Yeah.
Can I entertain the possibility? Is there any evidence that I might look for to the contrary here? And sometimes I need to slow down quite a lot. Sometimes I've been forced to slow down because I've been burnt out and, suffering from fatigue. And I sort of felt like, wow, there was a time where I didn't entertain the possibility that I might need to do things differently, to the point where my body made me do things differently. And sometimes I think there are signs, like the signs get stronger and stronger, that we should entertain the possibility of things being different and possible. I can see that it's a big leap to say I'm whole from I'm broken. That's like being on two sides of a really fast flowing dangerous river and thinking, well, if I leap in, I'm going to get swept away. I can't get across to that other bank. But maybe there are some stepping stones further along the line. If I walk along this bank a little bit further, maybe there'll be some stepping stones. Maybe if I will walk a bit, just be where I am with more ease.
Yeah.
Maybe even in the broken feeling, but just with a bit more acceptance and ease, then maybe I'll see not just a stepping stone, but a bridge, like a shortcut. Maybe there'll be someone with a boat, but I think I've come to see that I can't, for the want of white knuckling, get across a fast flowing river. I'm much better to go slow, be where I am, notice what my own system is doing and telling me. And then, generally speaking, a little tiny nugget of wisdom will give me the nudge as to where to go next. Where is the better feeling?
Yeah.
And trust that a bit more.
I love that. And using the word bridge, because that was what was coming to me, because I used to struggle with saying, oh, I'm worthy, or I love and accept myself. I couldn't actually say those words because I felt so strongly that I didn't. And if that sounds like quite, I'm difficult to even say that now, that I struggle to say that, because I wouldn't, I totally, believe that I love and accept myself, and I do. But I know that a lot of my clients don't, and I didn't. Like I say, for 50 years, I even say I hated myself, which is really strong, isn't it, to say that? But I did, because I didn't see what I see now about what we're talking about. And so we know that possibility for people is to see themselves that way as well. But it's not necessarily a straightforward thing, like you said. And that's why I like the bridge thing, because I think what happened with me, I had to have a bridge to do that. So it would be something like, I'm learning to love and accept myself, or every day I'm seeing more possibilities of that. And even though they just sound like words, they actually were that bridge, that, that was just one element of that bridge. But I think it's difficult to go from like completely hating yourself to say, oh, I just love myself and we're all whole. And I think sometimes people can get a bit like frustrated with that, because if they're not feeling that truth, then you can't just go from one to the other necessarily. Sometimes you can. Sometimes people can have big insights, I know. But I think it's more rare. I think normally it's a bit of a slower process. I don't know what you see about that.
Yeah, I think it's... I mean, I've had big insights and small ones.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think sometimes I can't even put my finger on what's helped me shift from a way of seeing things to a different way of seeing things. The only common factor, I think, for me is noticing on purpose.
Yeah.
Particularly listening to my body, because I feel like my body is sort of works like a bit of a loudspeaker, and it lets me know. It lets me know when I'm feeling tense. And I think the temptation could be sometimes for me to be like, I should be fixing my body. And that's not to say if I broke my leg, I wouldn't want my leg to be fixed. You know, sometimes your body does need fixing because we've got to look after this vehicle, and in order to live well for longer. But the feeling inside of my body is telling me stuff.
Like a sort of car, what do they call it? Warning light sort of thing, or that sort of thing.
Well, it's just, you know, when I'm driving and I'm like thinking, oh, that's a funny noise.
Yeah.
And I still like sometimes tempted to just turn the music up.
Yeah.
To like not think about it. And other times, and you think, okay, and now it's
smoke coming out
chugging
the engine
a bit. Oh, I've got no power. You know, like eventually, when something is really wrong, the symptoms, if you like, are very dramatic. And so I think for me, I try to incorporate moments in the day where I'm listening and noticing to my, what's going on. And I'm not too defensive, I think, anymore, or not so defensive about what that sort of feedback that I get from other people. Like I have been quite sensitive to that in the past, and actually now I'm trying to think, okay, if I just hear that as an objective, can I entertain the possibility there's a grain of truth in that feedback? Am I being a bit tetchy? Am I being, quick to dismiss that idea? Have I assumed I knew best for somebody else in my family? Am I running on an old pattern here? And sometimes that feedback that other people are helpfully being a mirror.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, I have to admit that is actually sort of true.
Yes. It's reminding me of like what Byron Katie has these. Do you know Byron Katie? She has these sort of turn it around things, she says. So if you're saying that they're being so annoying, and she says turn it around and like, I'm being so annoying. And then you see things in a different way. And it's so powerful. I really like doing that when I remember to do it. But yeah.
Well, and her work is called, first of all, she calls it The Work. And I'm no expert in it, but she calls it The Work, which implies that it's something that you can do, which is empowering in itself. But also, I know her book is called Loving What Is.
Yeah, I love that book.
So, I think that's a very mindful, place to come from. And there are lots of teachings through lots of different traditions, whatever somebody's religion might be, pretty much in every single one there is a signpost that says, look within.
Yeah.
Within. And, the answers aren't all out there. It's, we can trust ourselves to be reading signs better sometimes than we think.
Actually, it was just coming to me when you were mentioning the book by Byron Katie, Loving What Is. And earlier you'd said that you felt like, love everything, even the part of you that feels broken. Thought that was quite really meaningful to me, actually, because this is something that I realised about myself, that I can accept everything. I can accept the messy bits, because I feel like I have a lot of messy bits with ADHD. And I used to think I had to have all my ducks lined up in a row before I could accept myself, or be very organised, or have it all sorted. And then I just had this insight, and it was actually after reading Jamie Smart's book, Clarity, that I just had this, like you said, sometimes we just have an insight. It doesn't necessarily have to be a slow process. It can be like a really, it changes everything, doesn't it? And I was really, I don't even know what it was in that book, but it was something about, I can just accept myself as I am right now in this moment, even though part of me doesn't actually feel that I'm acceptable in every area. I can accept that. And that to me was quite profound. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I've got two thoughts actually. So one thought is 100%. Why not? If I'm like this anyway, why not accept it? What difference does accepting it make, one way or another? If I'm like this, I'm like this. Yeah. This is how I am currently, and if I like it or don't like it, it doesn't change anything. So I might as well like it, accept it, and be, get myself okay with that. So it doesn't make it worse.
I mean, it's quite, even when you're saying it, I'm feeling like I can't, on one level I'm thinking, how did I get to like the age of about, I don't know, I think it was about 52 before I actually thought that. And I know a lot of people don't. So it's almost like, it's almost so obvious. It's like that hidden in plain sight thing. Why would we not accept every part of us? We are human, and humans are fundamentally flawed. But we go through our life trying to be perfect and be all, make ourselves fit a certain mold. And I know a lot of my, listeners and my community, ADHDers, that's something that, really can happen, that we're trying to fit a mold of what it means to be neurotypical maybe, and not even realising that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's so powerful. And I think that, if that's the one thing that somebody got out of watching this episode, that would change their life. And that's not being dramatic, because it does change your life, does it? We think, I could actually accept myself and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. It doesn't mean I don't choose to do things. Yeah. Because I think that was the thing, again, from reading Jamie Smart's book. It was like, I don't actually have to do anything.
It's such a revolutionary thought to be okay with ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a society that's bombarding us with images and constructs that imply that either we would feel better or look better or be better if we, whatever condition, bought or did this, that and the other. And like this whole striving for some ideal way of being by comparison to what exactly, and that's a really natural and innocent thing to be sucked along by. It's not, it's just a very human thing to want to belong, to fit in, to be accepted, to be, our ancient human systems are designed. The system is designed to create these internal impulses and urges to keep us safe. And I know that you've had other guests on who've talked to that in terms of neuroscience and triggers, and hormones are released in, there's such an innocence to that, and such it's helped us be the, if for anybody who's listening who's alive, we're the sum total of the successful living that all that's gone before us. Do you know, we wouldn't be here if our ancestors hadn't kept themselves alive for long enough to have children. And that's, I suppose it links back to my point around, we've made it. We're here. We don't know how long we've got. We really don't. So, actually, how can we resist the constructs that have us think that this isn't good enough, that we're not good enough, that we're not okay. We are, by the fact of ourselves, here and okay enough to go about living our life. We're okay enough to go about our life. And how we do that, that's where all the options lie. But it's nothing to do with whether we're okay or whole. It's their option, that's where all the options lay. It's a separate range of considerations that might get us down or in a tiz or make living less enjoyable.
I think I just want to finish with this because I think, this has been such a great conversation. It seems like a great place to end. But when you said it's such a revolutionary thought to think that we might be okay, or we could just say we're okay, I just felt it was so kind of ironic in a way, because it's like almost like a paradox, isn't it? It's like the other way. And it's like, it's a joke, isn't it? That's a revolutionary thought. It's like, actually, is it more revolutionary that we don't? or that's the surprise that, why do we not? Well, we know why. And I think it is what you were saying about the safety aspect. And I think that is definitely coming from, our ancestry, like you say. But also I think a lot of people have, I know for me, it was about safety, a lot of it. So sometimes that can be where we're saying that, the bridge might come in. You might need to go a bit more gently if you don't feel safe actually being authentically yourself. And like for me, I think it was, again, this identity was kind of a safety thing. Like me, looking after, trying to, survive, I suppose, my survival brain. And so it is a process.
It is a process. Yeah. It is a process, and a beautiful and painful and joyful and challenging and ongoing process.
Yes,
100%. And we're all in it together. Yeah,
we are. So Claire, thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation. I'm going to have to get you back.
Lovely.
Because I feel like most of my questions in my book have not even asked, because we have just gone on brilliant tangents, which I love. So hopefully, I'm sure everyone will get as much out of it as I think they will. But before we finish, can I ask you, if people like the sound of you, really can feel where you're coming from, they'd like to explore more about how to connect with you, what would you say?
So I am on LinkedIn, so Claire Knight, and my business is called the Barnfield Bureau Ltd, which is named after my grandparents, inspired by those family connections that go back and got me to where I am today. So look for me on LinkedIn. So I coach, I do leadership development, and I teach mindfulness. So sometimes that's in-person retreats, and sometimes that is online programs. So open to conversations about anything, and even just to say hello.
And am I right in saying you do have a retreat coming up?
I do. This retreat is in Sheffield. It's on the 14th of June, 2026. And I'm really looking forward to bringing people together and having some special reflective time together and see what magic comes up in the conversation.
Well, thank you so much, Claire. And you're definitely coming back for part 2.
Brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me.